Welcome to the Sovereign Light, named after my ministry, and this audio visual version of my novel, this book, A Course in Metaphysical Spirituality. And how do you do? My name is Reverend Maria Arvanitides, and today, 242 out of 319 days, 365 days, 319 lessons, I suppose. I better just stop with the numbers now. However, this excerpt is from these pages. 2 pages we'll be covering today for lesson 211 out of, I think, 319 for 365 days, a whole year, to study and go through this book, as I'll take you each step of the way with this audio visual version, whether it be video, audio, however you choose to, whatever medium you're using. It is very helpful to go through this and participate. And the more you participate, the more you will be getting out of it. And pages 617 and 18 out of 848. So it makes it that much more exciting to do it and break each lesson up into an audio video version that will eventually is able to, for everyone to purchase the whole package that I will be offering. Right now, I just have a blog spot going on, a blog posting my various packages on the Sovereign Light blog spot. I will be also including all these threads that I have been doing as you've been sampling on Love's Creation Unlimited, one of the many channels that is on YouTube, as well as I'm going to start updating again to catch up on the Patreon for those who are interested. I'm also on Patreon. So let's continue. And today is all about what is a sovereign light being, and how do we liberate ourselves into this level of awareness. The hardest thing anyone can do is let go of resistance, to trust enough in this ability that is called surrender completely, and allow your heart to feel the way without any explanation. The mind always has to compartmentalize and put everything into order. And how are we going to make sense of it all when nothing makes sense, especially when it goes against any logic or common sense? And that's the battle. That's the conflict. That is the basis of all war. The fear that we start lowering our vibration when our heart closes. So this whole process is learning to live from a heart space centered reality, where we can open up to a higher mind awareness. And it can be done artificially. Intelligence is being done this way, recreating it from an artificial, more synthetic way of doing, by leaving the heart out altogether. And that is possible too with robotics and AI and digital uh, doppelgangers of ourselves, or what do you call it, this German, other selves that, we can disconnect completely and be controlled or controlling and abusive. And it all starts out with good intentions, and then we become disconnected from the whole perception of where our intentions were meant to be. So this is the kind of level of thinking. I will think about it. I will think. I am thinking. And so that already comes out of the mouth, and it lets you know where people are at. Are they feeling, or are they thinking? What is in the driver's seat? With that said, what is a sovereign light being? How do we become enlightened? How do we break out of the box? How do we rebirth ourselves from this consciousness into a higher level of awareness? And then there's the opposite. How do we close and defend ourselves and shield ourselves from everything and put up boundaries and wear armor and go inward and feel empty inside because we're so defensive? Or do we open up and remove all those many snakes, the monkey mind, if you will, from the head? And when we open up our heart, that reptilian side of it, it becomes evolved into what we call a bird brain. You might want to look into that. It's the larger aspect of our brain that is able to operate rather than just the autonomic limbic. And when we're connected to the parasympathetic and we allow it, and the sympathetic, and we're aware of all these things, it's all in this book, and you can go through it, and you can go back to reading those pages. However, for now, let's open up. Let's find a place where we can ground and feel centered, that we can trust enough to surrender and congregate within the center of this place, this electromagnetic place, that we vibrate and create a frequency and open up our bandwidth, and we anchor. And this light, this sovereign light that we breathe, this tube torus in and out that we're made of, water and light. Yes. So what we take in and what frequency we choose to be at, those are the many levels that we can discern without even thinking about it, just feeling our way through and allowing. Because when we're doing, we are resisting at the same time, not allowing to receive. It's like breathing out and not breathing in. So both are equally important, of course. We have to breathe in first in order to be able to breathe out. And in this way, loving on ourselves first and working on ourselves first. And that's not being selfish. It's called breathing in first, receiving in order to be able to give. And with that said, let's continue on Oh, let's take a few deep breaths in and out. And however it goes, that it might help to feel your breath. And whenever you're ready, you can opt to have your eyes closed or open. There are many methods, there are many practices, and there are many labels of saying, oh, this is from the Zionist point of view, or this is from the Church of Scientology, or this is from the Christians, or this is an interfaith of all faiths. This is the bigger broadband, the expanded version, the higher level, where you don't need to label where it's from or who has claimed this practice. This is a metaphysical spirituality where we express our authenticity and work and feel for one another. We feel their presence. I feel your presence. You feel my presence. And with that, our light brings out the better version of ourselves, and that from the relating, in a sense, the connecting that we are feeling from another, not what their sexuality is, or if they have a husband, or if they have a wife, or what color their skin, or what culture they come from, or what religion that is now called spirituality. And in a sense, it's a very limited way of seeing and perceiving through a very restricted perspective our self-expression, our very own authenticity. And this is what it means to live through the heart and to feel each other and our presence when engaging with each other. We don't have to be clone versions and like the same thing and have the same program. Rather, we respect each other, and the engaging that we do with one another, that we cooperatively co-create with the same intention, regardless of what our preferences might be, or what culture, or what race, or what species even. And this is what has cut us off from, and it's actually even laughable. How are we going to even take it seriously that one can communicate with the sky, that one can communicate with the sun and all the other stars within the galaxy and beyond, and from within, and all the sentient beings, including the essence of the soul that is the earth? So, what is your interpretation of be serious? The serious is be defensive, be shielded off with many boundaries, the wearing of an armor to protect and be saved or save others. What are we being saved from? What are we saving others? What are we protecting? Why do we need that need to feel safe? What is this insecurity that we are feeling? And from that level, all the other lore feelings that we have labeled as fear, that we have labeled as judgment, that we have labeled as opinions of others and what they think of us, and where exactly are we fitting in all their beliefs, in all their thoughts and opinions. That closes us off and shields and armors our heart, that makes us feel empty inside, and all the many little snakes that come out from our head, that monkey mind that worries for the future and feels guilty and shame of the present and the past, and is compartmentalized in a linear reality of suffering with the 5G outcomes, rather than allowing the 5D to kick in, the suffering of the 5G from the linear dimension of this 3D world. You can call it masculine, you can call it feminine, you can call it whatever you like. There's always a bad batch in every crowd, in every tribe, in every gender, in every species, in every race. And there's always a good. See? And how do we know? How do we discern who is and who isn't? How we feel on a cellular, antennae from our telomeres level? Or do we desensitize with all those LED lights and weaponry that we desensitize and feel nothing and allow just all these like gardener snakes to come out of our head and start thinking for us and doing artificially all these things, and we are like in armor, so now who's to blame? No. Oh, we blame it on the reptilian, we blame it on the Anunnaki, we blame it on all these. We are everything combined. We are everything we can ever possibly imagine to accept and even not be and think it's outside of us. We are everything. Now, the whole thing is, where are we activating? What are we activating? What is it that we're learning from? All these different things. Whatever we're activating is coming from that awareness, from that consciousness, from that light that impresses and imprints upon that soul. That is us, attracting and repelling. And so from this little sermon, let's take it forward and reverberate from what is within this book. From lessons 242, rather 211, day 242. So transcending metaphysical hierarchy is a process, and that of self-liberation clearing. So when guided by the understanding of universal law, there is only inner authority and self-governance. It will not allow the self from instigating harmful actions that could harm another. So whenever you're ready, let's begin the activation for the day, that we might think and allow it to activate. And I want for you to not only hear it, but for me to hear your echoes in the saying it with me. And you can always pause and you have total control over this video, that you can take your time and do as much as you want. You can even write it in a little post-it. Like, it's not just from the book now, where you're reading it, or you're saying it in an audio or something, recording yourself and then saying it, because I'm doing the work for you. And hopefully that will inspire and motivate the aspiration for you, all of you, to aspire into this and make it happen. Ready? Ready? Let's begin. Sounds good. And every time we say it, we take a few deep breaths in and out, and we do it like in a meditation, like in a prayer-like fashion. We bring ourselves into that level, into that meditative state, and we do it with deep breathing. And we learn to intermittently do this, because I go in and out from sermon to reading what's in the book and explaining and experiencing and perhaps sharing my opinions that you can recall from yours as well. And at the same time, activating this affirmation. So it's up to you and the level from which it is received. Let's begin. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. Just breathe that in for a moment. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. You take another deep breath in and out. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. Don't you just love the isms, sarcasms? No, that's not an ism. But parasitism, it's any parasitic that feeds off your energy, that's not really living, that you carry it and it's not serving you. And anything else that's karmically hanging on and feeding off your energy, whether it be people, anything. And so this is the time to let it go. Just free yourselves from all these bondages that parasites you worship and put above you in a hierarchical image. Like celebrities come to mind. They do their job, they tell a story, they play a role, they're actors, background people. But we make idols out of them. The moment we start making idols out of them, they will start feeding off our energy and they will become parasitic in nature. And you will know because they'll be like, I'm thinking bacterias, for example, and how they form toxic waste. And instead of a beautiful, positive aura energy, they have this thing, this engagement in your field of heavily toxicity in nature. And that's how you know. And that's how you can discern. Is it making you feel uneasy? Is it a loosh feeding off like a disease? What is the attraction? What is that glue that's keeping you there for it to feed off you? So moving right along, I will continue reading from page 617. Hierarchy at this moment in our life, in our era, is a male dominated and disempowering system of authority, obedience, and enslavement. The self, through love, however, can transcend in order to begin to heal itself and the world. The self has now awakened from the previous agreements, and it withstood amongst the many, working with the light to dismantle the old and heal by promoting self-regeneration. So these entry agreements also contain clauses that were for unspecified hardships to be leveled against and during this incarnation. No longer are these coagulative, physical, sexual abuse, psychic attacks, etheric implantations, and dream manipulation to recruit into working for the false light made applicable. And obviously, this false light has its level of awareness that you must become desensitized before you can actually have its effects on you, like before you can actually have it working in this way. Because if you're sensitive, you're not going to fall prey to it right away. You're going to feel like, hey man, this is a weapon and it's being in my way, trying to blind me or something like this. And naturally you're going to try and find some kind of of armor or something to defend yourself with. And you will find that even all optometrists will not, they refuse to give that very simple thing that you can use as a shield to protect your eyes. They say, no, it's not, don't believe in this. They don't even believe that this is happening, because you have to be at a certain level to be an actor and play that role, heavily induced, indoctrinated in the educational system, to have these kind of certifications, to be allowed even to practice as an optometrist. And that's very limiting as well. With licenses, of course, that only allow you to, within a province, within a city, within a town or community, sometimes if you're lucky enough, within a country. It's all about enslavement and bondage. But when you're desensitized to that level, that you actually make it through and you're like a cog in the system, right? Then you're not feeling it, and you're allowing this false light to be your reality. That's the only thing that you can feel, because it's very very dense in its level. And so I will not go into it further, because it might start getting, it's not about taking sides, rather it's about what feels right for each and every one of us, and we must respect and walk in reverence, hand in hand with each other. So are you with me? Let's hear you say these words out loud. Take a deep breath in. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being, and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being, and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being, and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. The parenting role models of rejection and criticize have exited rather. So let me read this again. The parenting role models of rejection and criticize have exited, taking their secrets with them, now and forevermore, from here on henceforth. The worker of light must come to the realization, and that it was always a light being, to awaken and from within its self-worth, that from previous it was taught falsely. to know and bear the torch for the many. So this torch, this like you see it in Olympics or carrying this torch, and it's external from us, this light-bearing torch of fire. When we first discovered how to create fire and how far we've gone, that's just an external reminder. But no longer do we have to do this, like even electricity and all the other natural that we harnessed from our original biological who we are. And well, we can take the earth and harness nature in this way as well, like Tesla. And everything that man has done and recreated in his version has lost its worth in order to make and promote the value of him and create a codependent, disease-filled society with. Because when you disconnect everybody in order to control them and inherit through many lineages of reproducing, procreating, again, the falsehood of immortality, what do we have? We're not sovereign, we become enslaved, and we become devalued, degraded to the point where we don't even know how to respect ourselves, because no one has ever taught us. And so that is what the worker of light must come to, the realization, and that it was always a light being. We're always this way from every breath we take in and exhale. And why oppress it, trying to fit in? With every effort, it becomes dimmed and oppressed. So we can, resilience is another thing. We can enforce our own will and power for doing good. It doesn't have to be in such a way where we want to overpower others with. And everything that man has created has become a weapon first. And then realizing what else can we do with this rather than have it killing? Can we heal with this? And what kind of level of energy are we playing with? Is it creating radiation? Is our hair falling out? Is there a difference between 5D and 5G? You see? So one thing is for certain, the dark sorcery, there is a difference between dark magic and white magic. And so what is conditional? What is non-conditional? And one of the things is for certain, the dark sorcery is no longer able to transfer the guilt over from the past and must take ownership of it full on. And as we see this happen, all these very minions that they're working for a paycheck and a livelihood while others are doing their bidding, and it's their duty to oppress and harm others, and it's not of their doing, it's not of their fault, because it's someone else who's doing the bidding on their livelihood. that they've created, a codependent relationships, depending on these dark sorcerers for an income. And so they're not meant to feel anything because it's their duty, rather than feeling their passion and joy, to feel from a place of beauty and creating that. The duty calls for them the ugliness. And so this struggle, this power struggle of good and evil, the duty versus beauty, and just doing things from a place of joy and passion and compassion. So every time there is amongst it, all see it with light-heartedness and feel the love. No matter the awkwardness, the self is not to judge, only be the observer. And you've done it perfectly well with people who want to connect and engage, who aren't of dark sorcery and have been oppressed for many years. And yet you've proven that you're able to do this to them. So how is it that you're not able to do it to the ones that really count in this direction of moving forward and empowering each other in an inclusive way? For instance, they have to have the money and be crippled in such a way to receive the help. Otherwise, we don't respond if they don't have the followers, if they don't have the money, if they're not in that level of influencing others, and so on. So are you really out there, all you folk, empowering others? Or are you just adding to the parasitism, for lack of better words, creating an income for yourselves that is promoting this dark sorcery? And so in a free foundational society, the self will not need even so much as the red light, green light district that causes such jagged patterning of behavior to stop and go. The stresses of the world and uneasiness will obsolete, because it will cease and to be of any service to hold relevance. Right now, the dark sorcery has you all and us, for the most part, who play into it, who rely on it for their income, trapped within that matrix. And anything else, like those who are coming out of it, they're not relevant. We're just observing them. We're not standing up with them. So we have a society of cowards, in actual fact, that have to be forced and enforced. And this COVID is kicking ass. And I'm so, it's time. And we're moving forward, and COVID had to be the one that, catalyst. And that we can't just stand by and pretend it doesn't exist and just observe it and kind of, with our insecurities, just gossip in the background and hoping it will go away. into non-existence. So, the ego trap of exerting authority over others to control and regulate their behaviors, or poof, put them into a hypnotic state where you feed off them by invading their minds, and they see you as a godlike figure, and they work for you, and they sponsor you, and they promote you over and above themselves, depending in a codependent relationship with students and teacher, that one is the seer and the others are just the followers. You're led to the drinking water, and yet you hide it and you cloak it from all the others, and you just bring them limited amounts in exchange for their currency and money. How is that not? How is that any different from this dark sorcery? I realize that even spiritualists and people walking of the spiritual path must earn an income and money and earn a living. And this is how, at what level, this corruption has created this handicap, if you will, this dysfunctional crippling of even the greatest sages out there, these masters that have ascended to a certain level. But really, we're all not going to go anywhere unless we help others to ascend as well. So this COVID thing is really one of the best masters out there right now. You see? And it has been teaching us to move forward. And for those who haven't, well, they are genetically being modified in a way that we're all moving forward, kicking and screaming, and suffering from all the radiation because it's imposed and impressed on our radiance as sovereign beings, and dulling out our telomeres and all these things. And so it's up to us to come together and see through all this madness, this hypnosis that we've been under. And this COVID has really shaken us and woken us up for the most part. And it's still happening, and it's still continuing, and it's going to for several years to come, because we really need this. We really do. And so practice today. Well, see, the ego trap of exerting authority over others to control and regulate their behaviors will no longer be eventually. See? Unless, those people they just signed up to, we don't know. We'll see how it unfolds in the years to come. And so practice today from a different way of seeing, and what was practiced from before. Do the work, or it will be done for you. So stand in the divine inner light. Of your self-sovereignty, and from the heart expand to higher levels of thyself, surrounding the body in a sphere of energy. This is your radiance with every breath. But when you suffocate yourself and hold yourself from breathing, you go into another dimension, another level of reality based on the frequency that's created from your breathing and the pulse. So when you go into another reality and you dull your senses, then the 5G is really not gonna be all that harmful now, is it? But when it's conflicting, in a sense, where your radiance, just like, okay, Tesla, and how he was using the light and how he was shocking himself with electricity from the outside and how that felt and how long he could last. And so it's the same, exact same, when you take radiation from the outside and how well you can work with it, how well your body can function with it. Well, it means that you have to be more well rested. And this book is going to help either way, whatever side you're on or have taken, for all levels, inclusive, for all races, species, anything that can higher dimensional beings even can pick this book up and really understand where it's coming from. So stand in this divine inner light of self-sovereignty and from the heart expand to higher self, surrounding the body in a sphere of energy. Really, really feel this connection to all things. Connect to Earth's core and that of infinite source from the forces of divine light presence. Where do you feel the disconnect and where do you feel the connection? And level it out. Where is it that you feeling connected to? Is it real or is it false? Or are you using another mediator to help you connect and channel, rather? Or are you directly doing it through yourself? Or are you relying on some other parasite to do it for you, rather? You see? So the purpose for today is to break out from the holographic spell of duality, polarity, and the idea that the self must serve one side over the other or have something that is dependent on its very own connection. We do this all the time. We think that our better half is out there somewhere to complete us. Well, that's one basic way of looking at this. And in a tribe, we feel that there's got to be one person who will lead the way. We do this in everything. We're programmed, and this is time to release those programs and become complete and wholesome and incorruptible, pristine. In the way of this experience that we signed up for as humans in this body. I know what I signed up for and what I prefer to indulge in and really experience. And it really hasn't been going that way. So this is something that we are trying to achieve and earn, and we feel we're not worthy. And in the meantime, all along, everybody is isolated, everybody's programmed to be in division, everybody's programmed in this indoctrination of lineages from way back to be this way that is non-conducive to what we actually signed up for, that we prefer to be in, called this place, this paradise, earth, and the frequency of heaven on earth. So this is the divide. This is the shedding, the dropping off of the lower density thing called, and the bardos, and the waiting room that's called purgatory, and the hell, and the desensitizing and heartless, and all these other things that the mind was creating for us to experience in the opposite, as we do when looking in a mirror, and actually in the complete opposite of what we came to here to prefer, the contrasts that we've been learning from. And yet we say, where are the rewards? And how do we celebrate? And do we have to be in competition with each other? No, we celebrate every little step of achievement that we feel that we've accomplished. And we do that. This is what it's called, to love on ourselves, to nurture ourselves, to accept ourselves. And so done is this sermon, because I can continue on. And I hope to see you again for day 243, lesson 212, on further expanding and exploring what is a sovereign light being. And I will leave you with today's affirmation. Once again, you can say it out loud, think it, just hear it, and then play it back, whatever you wish to do. There's so many choices. I choose to stand for truth. As a sovereign being and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement. I choose to stand for truth as a sovereign being and free from harboring all deception, parasitism, and enslavement.